I would be curious to see, and I saw just quickly in there was something about adding SBA procedures, which
Hmm.
I may be stealing this from, because I'm not sure how much anyone else cares about that, but that.
Okay. If you come into runtime execute and you say, I want to build a script that is for, actually, I'll just show you. These are the report writer functions. These are the services. This is the SQL execute go-to handlers, and this is a custom URL drillback. But basically, if you come into each of these ones, so if we go clear and I pull up, I want to do a get service, it fills in the code. Let me just size this up so you can see a little bit more about what's happening. But basically, it reads in the data, and you write what you want in here, the code to do. So right now, I clear the table, I set the customer number, I go get the record. If I find it, or if I don't find it, I clear the table, and then I return the customer number, customer name, short name, the statement name. So I'm just returning 4 fields and the status code. I set the outputs, so it's actually giving me a list of 4 text fields or a collection of 4 strings, and I send that out. That basically, it builds some example code for you, but you can change that to whatever you want. If I was now to call service get custom in GP Power Tools and I pass it the name of a script, so let me just actually pull up get. Okay, so if I called the service get custom and I passed in the name of the script, it tells it which script to run, and I pass in my collection of strings, it allows me then to read in my data, which gets me my customer number, and then I can return that data. And you can use, it's basically, you've got create, you've got delete, you can use whatever you want. So I'll give you an example. I wrote for a customer a receivables RM transaction. There we go. So this is a script. It's a bit long, but it reads in all of the data. So these are the columns I'm reading, or the data I'm reading in, batch number, batch comment, all the details, and it allows me to import a RM transaction. Now, the reason that we needed to build this as a custom one is the standard GP one allows you to assign a transaction to a batch, but it doesn't allow you to create a batch. So if the batch doesn't exist, you're screwed. Now, the solution for that is actually one of my products anyway. If you actually look at the batch posting services, this actually has the options for you to actually create and also post batches as web services. So this solves that can't create the batch problem. But the other one that they had is that the standard service code to import a transaction does not allow you to specify the distributions, so that it would only have the default distribution, or if there was no distribution assigned, it would be an empty account and then wouldn't post. So this custom code deals with the batch side of it. It also allows them to attach payments, and it also allows them to enter in multiple distributions. So you can see here I've got an array of distribution data that I'm pulling in. And then when I build the transaction, so there's some standard code. This is actually a standard dexterity example. Standard code that's building up the data and actually adding in the distributions and dealing with the commissions and the taxes and everything. So I know it looks like a lot of code, but that's actually a standard example that I pulled out of one and then modified to my needs. You can make it do anything. Now you can also make it drive a window. So if you want to drive a window, you can actually just make it do that, open a window, whatever you want. And the cool thing is as soon as you make a change here and hit save, that now modified web service is available for use. You don't have to shut down any services. You don't have to restart the services. You don't have to exit GP. As soon as you hit save, that modified web service is now available.
On the calling side, there's like one endpoint then, essentially, and it's just passing in kind of a switch for which script it should run?
Yeah, there's 5 endpoints because it depends on whether you run it, which one you want to run. So there's create, delete, get, update, and post.
Okay, gotcha.
So the 5 endpoints, and you hit the endpoint, you pass in the script, you pass in the data, and it does whatever you've told it to do.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So, and we've got a similar way that we've got report writer functions. So I can come in and, for example, the item category description, the long description is not available. There's no way to actually get it onto a report, but using a report writer function, I can. So I can actually just call this and get hold of that data out of the user category setup table and return it. And again, and then so you can just you create a calculated field in report writer, you call the system user defined function, the RW table get header string, you pass it in the ID of my product, which is 5261, and then you pass in the name of the script you want it to run and the incoming data. So you have the parameters you pass in, and then you get the data back out. You can write custom code like that. And I'll actually show you the custom drill down as well. Drill back, here it is. So, and that's demo URL. So we've got GP here, and switch, yes. Okay, so now if I come back to GP, you'll see it's waiting to open the window, and then it just pulled up hammer fits. So you can write custom drill backs to, now this is opening a window, but that custom drill back, the actions you take can be anything, because once the drill back has been accepted and it's running this code, it can do anything you want. So if you want to have some sort of spreadsheet that, you know, performs actions, you can just click on the links in the spreadsheet and it will perform actions in GP. Again, your imagination is the limit. For example, if I come into customer and okay, you see it's got these words Skype, where the pink fields are. It's now linked with Skype, and if I right click on a field, I can actually say to call that with Skype, or if I right click on here, I can do that with calling with Skype. Another one that I've got in here is with sales transaction entry. It can renumber the sales transaction lines. If you keep inserting above a line, it will only let you do it 14 times, and on the 15th time you get an error because it's run out of available numbers. So this allows you to renumber. My code will pick up the error message. If you get that error message, if my code's active, it actually will change that error message and offer to fix it for you straight away. But if you want to manually fix it, you can from here. But I've even also, if we go to sales, it's actually added onto the menus a renumber option here. So that's a parameter list being asked in GP. So I can come in here, choose a transaction. This one I know has got some data in it, and say, you know, renumber it to increments of 8,000. And so there you go. That's the old numbering. That's the new numbering, and it's renumbered it. So if I come back into sales transaction entry now and pull up that same transaction. Now, the cool thing with this is when it does the renumbering, the way the code for that was written is it will renumber every single table, whether it be a third-party table or not. It's actually doing an inquiry on the database and finding every table that has the same data in it and the same columns, and it will fix it for it. So I don't have to worry about, you know, is this updating the tax tables? Is this updating commissions? It does everything just generically, and that's just the way the script was written. So here, now it's renumbered it and then redisplays the record. You know, you can, whatever your limitations are, whatever things that you want to automate. So I know one administrator, anytime a user does something stupid, he uses Power Tools, writes a script so they can never do that again. So, you know, the limitations are only what you can imagine. And you can write your scripts in Dexterity, in SQL, and you can also use .NET code. So if you want to call something that is like a web service maybe that's easier to call from .NET, you can call it. You can mix and match codes. This is the base language is C#, but that's actually a Dexterity window. That's a C# window, that's a VB window, and that's a SQL data. You can just mix and match your languages and call between them, pass data between them. Whatever language is the best one for the tool, you've got access to all of them and can mix and match as you desire.